Matt Hall and Grant Flanders for K-State Online here after an intense matchup between the TCU Horned Frogs and the K-State Wildcats. Wildcats get it done in overtime, 66-64. Huge series of events from the final seconds of regulation and in the final seconds of overtime. Take me through it all, Matt. I want to hear what you have to say.
Let's see what I got here. So K-State led by 3. With about 20 seconds left, longer than that in the game, held for a late shot with that much time left. They couldn't run the shot clock out, but they could get close. Barry Brown had an attempt that missed that would have more or less ended the game. TCU got the rebound, about 6 seconds left, I remember, and then they had a decision to call timeout or push it. Down 3, they pushed it. Fans were, of course, going to say, K-State should have fouled, and they probably should have, but there wasn't a timeout in that sequence to have a chance to discuss, whether they were going to foul on that or not. So I can understand why they didn't. Desmond Bain knocks down a 3 at as close to the buzzer as can be. He did get it off. It was obviously the correct call, but it was incredibly close. The air really came out of K-State in that part of the Sprint Center as TCU tied to go into overtime. The Horned Frogs controlled the early part of OT, if I remember correctly, but K-State never really wilted. They got just steady performance with so many guys we'll talk about here in a second. But at the end, Barry Brown attacks the basket again, and he had a tough day, let's be honest. Barry Brown, I want to say maybe 4 of 11 from the field without looking at it right in front of me, but he got that one to go, got fouled, couldn't convert. TCU comes back on the other end. Alex Robinson makes a drive to the basket, and McCall Moyne, who had his best game as a Wildcat by far, got what we thought was a pretty clean block under the hoop. We had a good look at it. As Chris Nelson, who's pretty smart, said, I think the official kind of anticipated that call and made it when he didn't really foul him. But they say ball don't lie, and Robinson went to the line, missed both free throws, missed the second one on purpose. Xavier Sneed grabs the rebound. K-State escapes 66-64, and just a thrilling game for those who made it here to the Sprint Center. Yeah,
you talk about Mac Moeen having his best game with 16 points, 9 boards, and 3 blocks. That's huge. And then Barry Brown struggling like he has throughout the season sometimes, but still that doesn't bother him in the closing moments and gets it done. Talk about a guy like Dean Wade, who didn't have his best game, but it didn't seem to matter.
Yeah, it didn't. Of course, K-State was able to win without it, which is funny. We talked a lot yesterday on the podcast about can Barry Brown and Dean Wade be enough to carry K-State to win today. They were probably their 3rd and 4th best players today, if you really look at it. You could make that case for sure. And I think it's easy to criticize and say Dean Wade should have touched it more, and he absolutely should have. But I remember, me and Nelson and Jeff sitting by each other talking about, Dean needs to touch it. And as soon as he did, he attacked the basket, and Kendrick Williams, who played a great game, stripped him. So TCU deserves some credit for making it hard for Dean Wade to do things in this game. But yeah, that K-State could beat a good team like TCU without big performances, except for the end from Barry Brown and Dean Wade, I think speaks volumes for how far this team has come.
Yeah, what a game. And who else showed up and helped will the Wildcats to victory?
I thought Xavier Sneed, he had some struggles, but he had some big shots too. He had some threes early to get K-State going. He had a shot at the shot clock expired when TCU was trying to pull away. He got to the free throw line late and shot it better than he did early on. He had a tough matchup in Kendrick Williams, but I thought he played well. Cartier Jotto wasn't great, but as Bruce talked about in the post game, there was a sequence when K-State was down 7 in the second half and felt like they were in trouble. And he really injected some energy and got some finishes around the basket. Levi Stockard, 3 of 3 from the floor, got 6 points that K-State clearly needed to win this game today. So a lot of guys contributed to this win, of course, for the Wildcats.
So yeah, that it's great for the Wildcats and TCU. Where does this set K-State up for the NCAA's talking right now after this big win?
Wonderful question. Coach Weber said after the game that he thinks, of course, this locks K-State in. They were in before, but I appreciate him, being cautious and respectful of that whole process. Now I look at this, I don't see how K-State's any lower than an 8 or a 9 seed in this thing, no matter what happens the rest of this Big 12 tournament. To me, that's kind of their, the floor of them for an 8 or a 9. Now, of course, you go to tomorrow to play either Oklahoma State or Kansas, who are literally playing right behind us. I keep looking up there on this TV because the scores are going on as well. And a great opportunity either way to play a Kansas team that you'd love to get a chance to beat without Udoka Azubuike, or an Oklahoma State team who you swept this year.
And then how about for TCU after they lose in the Big 12? But obviously they still have NCAA aspirations.
No doubt. They're completely safe. They're in the field. They're probably looking at a 7-8 seed, something like that. TCU's a funny team. They played, in my opinion, a pretty similar schedule to K-State non-conference as far as true difficulty opponents, except for that Nevada game was great for them. But they were fortunate, or did a good job, however you want to portray it, of having a lot of their games that they bought, the teams that aren't as good, finishing well in the RPI, and they say significant difference from K-State. Either way, TCU deserves to be in. They're a very good basketball team, and one that I think is skilled enough that out of all the Big 12 teams, you talk about who can make a run, there's a few for sure, but TCU is one that wouldn't shock me just because of the way they can shoot the basketball.
And last thing to talk about is the game going on right now. You said it right behind us. It is during commercial, but what do you have for the rest of this game happening? What do you see happening for the Jayhawks and the Cowboys?
I picked Kansas coming into it. I know Azubuike's a big loss, but I have a lot of respect for Oklahoma State. I just think it's tough to beat a good team 3 times in the same season. But Oklahoma State, we've said it, for the last couple of nights, is probably playing better than anybody in the league right now. So I could see them absolutely having a chance to get this one done. And if Oklahoma State gets this win, I don't know how they're not in the tournament. They maybe should be anyway, but I still think Kansas pulls it off. I can't see the score. I want to say it's like 10-9. I think it's pretty close right now. But I do think KU wins this one, even without Azubuike.
More coverage coming from the NCAA tournament from K-State Online. For Matt Hall, I'm Grant Flanders. Thanks for watching.